Nobody saw it coming. Not the fans who had already booked their flights. Not the tournament organizers who had quietly been thrilled at the prospect of her name in the draw. Not the OFWs in Dubai and Singapore who had started checking hotel prices near Queen's Club. Not even the people closest to her who had watched her win Birmingham and assumed the momentum would carry straight through to London. One day her name was on the entry list. The next day it was gone. Withdrawn. Alexandra Eala.
Fi.
No press conference. No warning. No explanation beyond a brief statement that raised more questions than it answered. And within hours, the tennis world, a world that had spent the previous week celebrating her, was erupting in an entirely different direction. This is the story of the decision that stunned everyone. The fine that divided fans. The silence that spoke louder than any statement could. And what it all means for the woman at the center of it, 3 weeks out from Wimbledon. The stage that was set, what was actually at stake. To understand what Alex Eala walked away from, you have to understand what the HSBC Championship actually is. This is not a mid-tier event penciled into the calendar between the tournaments that matter. The HSBC Championship, held at the historic Queen's Club in London, is one of the premier events of the entire grass court season. Prize pool exceeding $1.2 million. Ranking points significant enough to dramatically shift a player's position in the WTA standings. A draw that pulls the best players in the world to London on the most prestigious stretch of grass outside of Wimbledon itself. For Alex Eala, the timing of this tournament could not have been more loaded with possibility. She had just won Birmingham, just broken a 2-year curse against Czech opponents in a 3-set final, just announced herself, loudly, undeniably, as a genuine grass court threat in the summer of 2026. She was ranked 37th in the world and climbing. The cutoff for Wimbledon seedings was approaching. Every match, every win, every ranking point accumulated in this specific window carried weight that multiplied far beyond its face value. The HSBC Championship was not just an opportunity. It was potentially the tournament that determined whether she walked into Wimbledon seeded or unseeded. Whether she got 3 rounds of unseeded opponents to build rhythm, or drew a top player in round 1 the way she did last year, and went home before her tournament had a chance to begin. When her name appeared on the preliminary entry list, the Filipino tennis community lit up. Flights were researched, hotels were booked, vacation days were requested. OFWs across the United Kingdom began coordinating. The same energy that had filled Edgbaston Priory Club with Philippine flags was preparing to descend on London. Tournament organizers were quietly thrilled. And then, without warning, it was over. The withdrawal, 2 sentences, and 1,000 questions. The WTA website updated, without ceremony. Withdrawn. Alexandra Eala.
Fi.
No timestamp announcement. No coordinated communication. Just a status change on an entry list noticed by a fan, then a journalist, then another journalist, then suddenly everyone at once. Eala's team released a statement shortly after. It was brief. Deliberately, frustratingly brief. Alex has made the difficult decision to withdraw from the HSBC Championship due to personal reasons and scheduling conflicts. She thanks her fans for their understanding and looks forward to competing again soon. Personal reasons. Scheduling conflicts. Read those words carefully, because they were chosen with precision. Vague enough to close the door on follow-up questions. Specific enough, or appearing specific enough, to suggest that something concrete had driven the decision. But concrete enough to actually tell you anything? Not remotely. Was she injured? The WTA had flagged fitness concerns before Birmingham. She had played through them, competed 5 matches, won a title. But perhaps the cumulative toll of back-to-back grass court campaigns had finally landed on her body in a way she could no longer push past. Was she exhausted, genuinely, deeply exhausted, in the way that goes beyond tired legs and into something that affects sleep and focus and the basic ability to compete at the level she demands of herself? Was something happening in her personal life that the public had no right to know about and that she had every right to protect? Or, and this was the theory the most cynical corners of social media latched onto immediately, was there a sponsorship conflict? A commercial obligation that the tournament schedule had run directly into? She said nothing. Her coach, reached by a reporter, offered only, Alex is fine. She just needs a break. She'll be back soon. A break. It was the wrong word to use. Not because it wasn't potentially true, but because it had no standing whatsoever under WTA participation rules. And those rules were about to become the center of everything. The WTA responds, cold, professional, and devastating 48 hours after the withdrawal. The WTA issued its formal statement. The language was measured. The implications were not. Following a review of Alexandra Eala's withdrawal from the HSBC Championship, the WTA has determined that the player did not meet the criteria for an exemption under the tour's participation rules. As a result, Miss Eala has been fined $50,000, the maximum allowable penalty for a first-time offense, and has been issued a formal warning regarding her future participation in mandatory events. $50,000, the maximum. First offense. Formal warning attached. The room, metaphorically, the entire tennis world, went quiet for a beat, then erupted. The core issue, stripped of all the noise surrounding it, was straightforward. The HSBC Championship was a mandatory event. Players ranked inside the top 50 are required to compete in designated mandatory tournaments unless they have received an official exemption, documented injury, documented illness, a verified personal emergency meeting, specific criteria. The process for requesting that exemption exists. It is established. Players use it. Eala had not requested an exemption. She had not submitted medical documentation. She had not gone through the formal process. She had, by the WTA's account, simply withdrawn, and the governing body had no path available to it other than enforcement. The fine landed, and the divide began immediately. The world splits in two within hours. The hashtag #IStandWithAlex was trending across the Philippines. The WTA told her not to play Birmingham. She played anyway and won. Now they're fining her for needing rest. This is harassment of a 21-year-old athlete. Alex Eala has brought more attention to women's tennis than almost any player this year. She sells out venues. She inspires millions. She makes people care about this sport who never cared before. And this is how the WTA thanks her.
She's a human being.
She's been playing nonstop for weeks. Her body needs rest. Her mind needs rest. The WTA should be protecting her, not punishing her. The anger was real, and it was understandable. This was a player who had defied the WTA's pre-Birmingham fitness advisory, competed anyway, and delivered one of the most celebrated grass court performances of the season. The optics of the governing body then levying a maximum fine against her felt, to her supporters, like institutional overreach against someone who had already proven the institution wrong once. But the other side of the argument was equally coherent. I love Alex, but the rules apply to everyone. You cannot decide to skip a mandatory tournament because you're tired. That is not how professional sports function, at any level, for any athlete. The WTA has been criticized for years for being too lenient with top players. Now they're enforcing their own rules and people are upset. You cannot criticize inconsistency and then demand exceptions in the same breath. Players lower down the ranking who desperately need those matches, those points, those prize money checks, they show up whether they're tired or not. Because they have to. Consistency has to mean something. Even the sports legends weighed in with careful, measured takes. Venus Williams, who had partnered with Eala at the Hamburg Open and spoken publicly about her admiration, offered both sides equal respect. I understand Alex's need to prioritize her health. I also understand why the WTA has to enforce its rules. The question is whether there's room for flexibility. I hope they can find a solution that works for everyone. Billie Jean King added, player well-being should always come first. But the rules exist for a reason, and they need to mean something. I hope this becomes a constructive conversation rather than an ongoing conflict. Eala herself said nothing publicly. No statement, no appeal, no social media response to the debate raging around her. There was only one Instagram story, a photo of the Birmingham Open trophy, and a single word written across it. Laban. The real cost, beyond the fine $50,000, is significant. It is not, at the level Eala is operating, financially ruinous, but it is the maximum allowable penalty for first offense, and the number sends a message that goes well beyond the money itself. The formal warning attached to the fine is, in many ways, the more consequential piece. Under WTA rules, that warning means any future violation of participation obligations could result in escalating penalties, larger fines, suspension, restrictions on tournament entry, consequences that could genuinely affect her ability to compete in the events that matter most. And the relationship between Eala and the WTA, already strained after the pre-Birmingham fitness advisory that she overrode with a signed waiver, has now deteriorated further. That history, that pattern of friction between a player and her governing body, is something that operates in the background of every subsequent interaction. It doesn't disappear because the fine is paid. Sources close to her camp, speaking carefully, offered some context without confirming specifics. The decision to withdraw had not been impulsive. The fatigue was real, physical and mental, accumulated across weeks of competition at the highest level. The choice to step back had been weighed seriously before it was made. And the fine, while painful, had not changed her assessment that the decision was the right one for her at that moment. She's human. One source said simply. She needed a break, and she took one. The fine is unfortunate. She doesn't regret the decision. Whether the WTA will find a path toward greater flexibility for situations like this, where a player's needs and the tour's obligations come into genuine conflict, remains an open question. Whether this specific moment becomes part of a larger conversation about athlete welfare in professional tennis is something that will unfold over time. What is not an open question is how Alex Eala responds to adversity. What comes next, and why it was always going to come to this. The Ilkley Open is underway. Eala is competing. Wimbledon is 3 weeks away. The fine has been levied. The warning is on record. The controversy has had its week in the headlines. And somewhere in all of it, while the debate raged and the hashtags trended and the former champions offered their measured takes, a 21-year-old from Quezon City made a quiet, private decision about what the next chapter of her story looks like. She got on a plane to London. She checked into a hotel. She arrived at Queen's Club at 8 o'clock in the morning and walked onto a practice court and hit tennis balls for 2 hours with the focused intensity of someone who has processed what happened and decided, with complete clarity, that the only response worth giving is the one delivered with a racket. The $50,000 is gone. The warning stays. The critics have said what they needed to say. But the grass at the All England Club is being prepared. The draw is being seeded. The most storied tournament in tennis is 3 weeks away. And Alex Eala, the player who was told not to play Birmingham and played anyway and won, who was fined $50,000 and showed up in London the next morning and trained like nothing had touched her, is preparing for the biggest stage of her career. You can fine a champion. You cannot stop one. The WTA has made its position clear. The rules apply to everyone. Alex Eala has made hers equally clear. She will always put her well-being first, even when it costs her. Even when it costs her $50,000. Wimbledon is coming. Laban always.